This instruction video is a summary on how to make an online 12 by 12 inch sling bag. What I'm using, I have two templates, a 3 by 3 inch template that is used to cut the tabs, and also a 17.5 by 12.5 inch template. This is plexiglass, or you may also use a heavy cardboard sheet. So the first thing, I have two different fabrics that I'm using. One is a blue for the back, and also I have a print for the front. These two are medium weight, or you could use a heavier weight fabric and a lighter medium weight fabric. So the first thing I do is I lay out my fabric. I'm on the back side here, there's a print. So I want to take a little time to line it up evenly, and then I go ahead and take a marker and trace around the template. Or if you are familiar with using a rotary cutter, you could use a rotary cutter and trim around. Otherwise, for our purposes, we're using a marker to mark around, and then you just use the scissors to go ahead and trim the edge all the way around. So I do this both for the front and the back, and also I do it for the tab, and I'll trace around and cut that out as well. So now I have two pieces of fabric. The next step is to press the top edge a 1/2 inch down, and I marked my 3 inch template here. I marked a 1/2 inch so I can see that. And I go ahead and press that. Wrong sides together. In this case, this is the wrong side. And then I take it and I turn it down 3 inches. Again, I'm using my template as a guide, 3 inches, and I press that. And I do that for both pieces of fabric, both the front and the back. And now I have my front pressed as well as my back pressed. And then I want to check to see how well I've done here cutting and trimming, and make sure that they are the same size. My next step is to sew down this 3 inch hem area and 1/4 inch on both sides, and I do this for both the front and the back. And I will end up with a piece like so. So this is another example where I've sewn down a 1/4 inch seam down the top 3 inch casing. My next step, after I sew down both sides, is I've pressed my tab by pressing in about a 1/4 inch on this side and about 1 inch on this side, and then fold it over a 1/4 inch so it overlaps. And I have about 1 inch remaining, and I do a zigzag stitch right down the center here. And I do that for both pieces, and I will end up with 2 tabs. Here I'm showing this example where I've done the zigzag stitch. I folded the tabs in half, and I've placed them on the front side of my sling bag about 1 inch or 3/4 inch from the bottom on both sides. And I go ahead and I pin that. I pin these on, and then I stitch it a little less than a 1/4 inch. And I do that both sides, and I also do it with my label. Again, I place my label just above my tab on the right side, facing in, and I've got a stitch here. Once I've done that, I can place my back side of the sling bag, right sides facing each other, and I start at the top down the 3-inch casing, and I pin here, and I pin periodically around my sling bag and end right here again. So this is where I will begin sewing 1/4 inch all the way around my bag and finish my 1/4 inch stitch right here. Once I've done that, I will do a zigzag stitch all the way around as well, and this will keep the lining from fraying. My next step, and I will show that on this example, my next step is, my bag now looks something like this, inside out. I'm using a different example here. And I go ahead and clip the edges, the corners, and I turn it right side out. And now I will have a casing on the top that I fold down and I press. I press this casing down. Remember, it was 3 inches. I fold it down inward toward the inside of the bag, and I can press this and then do a stitch all the way along very close to the edge. And I do that on both sides. And now I have a casing for my rope to be thread. So the final step is to take a nylon rope. In this case, I use a macrame nylon type rope. And this is nylon, and so it doesn't fray. I just take a hot flame and I just melt the edge a little bit, and that keeps the rope from fraying. Then to thread the rope through the bag, I take a safety pin, a large safety pin, and I attach it to the top of the string. Now the string is about 36 inches long, and I have 2 of those. And I begin threading by starting down at the bottom here, and I go through and I will thread this all the way through my casing. I'll work it all the way through. It'll come through this end. And then I will continue on all the way through here and back down the same place I came. And then on the other side, I do the same thing. I begin here, I thread all the way through and around, not down, around, and back down the same side. And then I knot this off both right above and right below the tab. And it gives me a nice snug finish. And simply pull it like that to